Well, we are continuing work here in the upstairs bedroom. Dee Dee got everything painted, and so I guess we're moving on to flooring now. So the flooring that we are using is just some cheap 3/4 inch pine flooring that we got at Lumber Liquidators, just a fairly cheap tongue and groove product. That's the flooring that we've used in the rest of the cabin, so we're going to continue that theme up here and use up the last of it that we got for it. So I'm excited to get this floor down because this is the last room that we're working on, so I'm very thankful for that. Weapons of choice for putting it down are floor cleats and the flooring gun that we've been using thus far. This is Boss Stitch, got it at Lowe's, it's been working great. 2-inch cleats. And then for anything that we can't get to with the big gun, then we're using crown stapler with 1.5-inch staples. So let's start getting some flooring down and move on to staining and sealing it. Alright, a little bit of a bummer. We ran out of boards. I had scavenged some of these as our build went along and used them as window trim when I was running out of boards. And now, time to pay the piper. So, it's going to put a kink in things. I got to order up some more boards to finish this up. So I was hoping I had enough, but not so lucky.
So, you need something to cut those.
I got a knife.
Come on.
My very dull knife.
Put your back into it. Doink. Woohoo! Ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's move some wood. I can. Oh. Oh wow. Apparently these are tongue and groove together. Oh, get over here and help. You're gonna get to put your feet print on this and then just walk a little. Oh, look, he came running over. He's like, okay, I'm coming. I'm coming. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do?
Alright, so the flooring we got felt pretty dry. We are going to moisture check it against the existing stuff in here, see if we need to let it sit for a little while and get to the right moisture content or not. Well, this all appears to be pretty close in moisture content, so I think we're good to go ahead and get her down. If they had a relatively high moisture content and we were expecting it to come down to the moisture content of the flooring that's in here and been in here, then we might start to see some shrinkage as the moisture goes away and gaps develop. But I think we're good to go.
All right, so we are done with this room, the upstairs room, which will be our office.
Hooray!
And we are moving on to this little hallway section at the top of the stairs. And in this little cubby back there is where there's gonna be a closet. So we're gonna make that a closet for hanging clothes and storage. And so that is the last little section of flooring, I think, in the entire cabin, correct?
Right.
All right, so that's the last little section of flooring. So we're gonna get on with that. So this is what happens when you keep your sourdough starter in the oven and then you forget and you preheat the oven to 450 and then it completely preheats and then you go to put your pot in there or your pan in there and you realize your sourdough starter was in there. Sad. So as you can see, we basically baked our sourdough starter partially into bread. So we're gonna go ahead and pull some of the stuff that's left over from Stanley here and put him in a separate bowl. We'll clean this all out and then return him to his home and hopefully not cook him for the third time. Yes, in fact, this is the second time we've done this. We keep Stanley in the oven because that sounds so funny. I keep Stanley in the oven because our house gets cold at night. Not like freezing cold. We get down to 62, 65, somewhere in there. Because we do not load up our wood stove before we go to bed. Our house is really small and it takes 10 minutes to heat back up with the wood stove. So I just don't see the point in loading it up every night. So I put Stanley in the oven with the oven light on and it keeps him warm so that he stays activated. And that works really great unless you forget that he's in there and then you preheat the oven. Sorry, Stanley. Well, that is so funny. It tastes like really sour sourdough bread.
I don't want to eat it.
It's really bad. Oh, it's so nasty. Oh, it's so sour. Not much of Stanley left.
No, there was his top skin.
Poor Stanley.
So we have a bunch of blue painter's tape down on some seams that have a little wider gaps and some of the knots that the pine has in it. We're using a utility grade, kind of a knotty rustic pine from Lumber Liquidators. And so you have some gaps here and there. You've got, knot holes all throughout it, which actually give it a lot of character, but we'd like to get them filled so that we don't have, giant gaping holes in the floor. So we're gonna do a few things to take care of that today. So one thing we're doing is using glue and sawdust from our cuts. Didi's
I'm demonstrating.
She's mixing the two of those together and we're adding a little bit of the color of stain for the floors so that they blend nicely. Good. Oh, hey.
How am I doing?
You're doing good. The other thing we're doing is mixing epoxy, and we're just using some Gorilla Glue epoxy mixing that up and adding, same thing, a little bit of the color stain that we're using on the floors to seal some of the big knots. And that seems to work pretty well as well. So we may have had a little bit of fun with the stain. We didn't realize there was a rag still in the bottom of the can. So we were trying to get it out and got stain all over, but that's fine. We still haven't sanded. So this is a pretty large hole, as you can see. We're simply just gonna fill up the bulk of that with some sawdust, making sure we're well below the lines where we wanna be, but just to give it some structure down in there. And then we'll go over the top with a nice thick coat of epoxy. We found on some of the larger holes that if we put epoxy in without putting something down in there, a lot of times it's thin enough that it will just keep seeping down through, and you'll keep dumping epoxy in there and it keeps on seeping down into the void. So just put a little bit of structure in there for the epoxy to grip to. Seems to help keep it in place until it solidifies and turns hard. Dee Dee's
putting some poo in here. I'm just kidding.
So this is the mixture of sawdust and stain and glue.
Wood glue.
And she's just working it down into some of the larger cracks. Now we just gotta figure out how to keep the cats out. Well, you might hear vacuum cleaner and sander going on in the other room upstairs. My dear wife has been on her hands and knees for the last 4 hours sanding the floor. So I'm very grateful for her for that. And I gotta make dinner, so she took it easy on me. She said I could do pot stickers. Alright, so now I'm going to clean the floors. Dee Dee got everything sanded and vacuumed and the majority of everything cleaned up. But just with some of the fine particles, we want to get them up. So we're going to use mineral spirits to do that. That'll help to clean everything. But also this pine floor is very porous, and with some of the more porous woods, you get kind of some blotching that can happen. Because some of the pores will be very thirsty and soak in a lot of stain, and others will not. So this will actually work as a pre-stain conditioner to kind of soak into some of those thirsty pores so they don't accept as much stain, and it makes a much more even coat with the covering of the stain. So we're going to do that. We're going to clean the floor with this and let it sit for a little bit. Then we'll wipe everything down with a dry cloth and put some stain on.
Robert has the, what is that called? Mineral spirits on that, and the green is popping. And there he is right there. He's working on the little closet area. And I'm going to get out of his way.
Working my way to you. Better move it.
I'm gonna get out of the way and get down the stairs.
All right, we've given the mineral spirits a little bit to evaporate. We didn't put it on super wet, so we don't have to give it very long. I'm gonna go on with stain. We are using Provincial for Minwax on that. So I'll go ahead and put stain down, a nice liberal coat of stain, let it sit maybe 15 minutes, and then come through with dry rags and wipe up any excess. So then we'll let it sit overnight to continue to penetrate into the floor. Okay. Somewhere in the bottom of this is a rag. Hopefully not too deep. There it is.
Yeah, so we're putting up baseboard. So if he goes a little bit on the wall, it's not a big deal.
baseboard will cover that, and anything like splashes or anything above that, I'll just hit again with some touch-up paint. So really not a big deal. Stain is going on smoothly. Now I've noticed that you've employed the method of wax on, wax off.
Yep.
Or is it just a schmear method?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm just slathering it on there nice and thick. I load up the rag and don't squeeze it at all, and just start swirling, and then as it gets a little drier, then I start squeezing it to control the release of it.
Okay. Don't paint yourself too close right over here by the doorway, because you might not be able to get out.
Whew. It's messy.
It's all right. I work on the cleanup crew and I'm okay with it. Down to the bitter end where you start having to work your way down this circular staircase
Yep.
to finish up that last little scotch.
All right, that was pretty successful. Did end up looking a little leopard spotted, but going good. I'm glad Dee Dee opened some of the windows. It's 82.7 inside here right now. It's probably 90 up in that bedroom. I unplugged the AC and put the cord out of the way. Because we didn't want to get the stain all over the cord, but yeah. Oh, look, Dee Dee's leopard printed too. Finley, you look upset. Nothing.
Oh, are you working your way towards the door?
Yeah.
Ooh, look at those little feety prints. So what we've done in the past is we've gone ahead and wiped down the stain, wiped up the excess, and then we let this sit overnight. It actually lightens up some, so it may look like it's darker than what we have downstairs, but that's because it is going to lighten up a little bit overnight. Something else that we figured out from experience is the best way to get stain off of your hands is coconut oil. It just kind of loosens it right up, where soap, any kind of soap I've tried doesn't do that. Coconut oil, you just kind of use that and it breaks it up and gets it off really quickly and easily. And actually even was using that to clean up the tools. So that works really well. Just a little helpful hint for you. All right, so Robert's working his direction towards us in his socks, and probably his knees are all dirty. So I'm gonna set the phone down and help him take his little socks off. So what this scenario is, so what this scenario is we took Robert's socks off and they turn inside out, but his feet, it soaked through and the stain is on his feet. So what I did was I flipped the socks, they're inside out and they're on backwards. So now his, so now he's wearing the upside down, inside out version of his socks. Hey, it works.
It does, thank you.
We're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you. He doesn't normally walk like Frankenstein.
All right, so the good news is we've been saving these stain socks and using them as we've gone because they're like...
They're basic... hold on, I got a cat.
Got a cat
attacking my butt. Yeah, they're basically like, they have like a stained sole on them now, so like the bottom is rigid. But what's the good news?
The good news is that is the last chunk of floor with those stain socks, so we are done with flooring.
Rest in peace, stained socks and dirty towels.
Well, gotta crank the stove up and leave the windows open because it is stinky in here. Well, it is snowing. Probably some of the teeniest little flakes you could probably have. It's been snowing for 2 hours. It's below 30. It says it's gonna snow all day, but if it's gonna snow like this, I don't think we're gonna have to worry about too much accumulation. What is going on here? Oh my gosh.
Ollie, did you do this? Did you do this? Is this mess yours? You little monster.
I got nothing. I have no words.
Walk away for 2 seconds.
I literally was in the other room for like 30 seconds and I came back to this. It's a shoe insert, like the paper that they put inside a shoe. And apparently I left it on the ground. My bad.
Oliver, you need to get the vacuum out and clean this up.
He's really crazy. I'm afraid to even try and like take it from him.
Snow kitty. All right, so we made a trip to Lowe's and got a few supplies for putting the flooring down. This is typically what I like to use. It's a applicator pad. Looks like that, and it's usually, I think they have it for stain and for like decking and that sort of stuff. The reason I like it is it rotates as you go, and seems to work pretty good. All right, and we also are using some Minwax floor sealer. I actually like the other kind that we originally started with, but Lowe's stopped carrying it. But it was for high traffic, like a cross-link water-based finish. So we got to use what we can get. I can order some other stuff, but this isn't going to be a high traffic area up there, so we're just going to roll with it. Put it on the stairs, and it's holding up pretty good. So we're going to roll with it. So the nice thing about these water-based floor finishes is that they are pretty low VOC, so they don't smell really bad when you're putting them down. And they've held up pretty well. The problem with them is they like to solidify with a big old chunk of the of stuff in the bottom. So you gotta stir them up pretty good. So in the past, it's been a pain with the stir sticks to try and get those chunks broken up. So we did buy a little bitty stir stick today. I have a big one for mixing mortar and stuff, but this one's a little more appropriately sized for what we're doing today. So we're just using some cheap plastic paint tray liners for lining your paint tray with, because they work a little bit better with that as far as the applicator pad fitting inside of them. We've used everything from the turkey foil pans to plastic tubs to whatever we could find at the time. So I think I even ruined some of Dee Dee's Tupperware containers at some point while we've been working on the stages of this floor. So, but we found that this applicator pad probably works best, and something big that you can put it in. Oh yeah, look at that.
It's like skin. You.
Yeah.
You don't play with the skin. Gross. Just put it in your, yeah, there you go. Nailed it.
A couple years ago, I finally bought an actual, just like extension pole, because I don't know how many broom handles of Dee Dee's I broke over the years doing stuff. So that was actually a really good investment to get like a bespoke project extension pole. So we use that for painting, all kinds of stuff. A lot of these applicator type things take the same thread, which is the same as a broom.
So recently we had the house appraised, and what they told us was that this didn't count as a bedroom because it didn't have full ceiling height all the way around, which I've never heard of that. I've heard of appraisers not counting a room as a bedroom if it doesn't have a closet, but I think it kind of depends on the appraiser and the area you live in. Thank goodness we put that bedroom in downstairs, so kind of rearranged the layout of the cabin so we have the downstairs bedroom, because otherwise we'd live in a 0-bedroom house. It's weird to walk in here and have like pretty flooring instead of the orange vinyl.
All right, guys, the floor is in. We did 3 coats with the sealer, and it looks pretty good. So I'm excited about that. Over the next week, I'm going to be working on paint and trim, installing that, getting this room all ready to go. So that in about a week, we can move our office up here, and we won't have a desk sitting in the middle of our living room anymore. So I'm very excited about that. So I'll be busy in the next week working on that. I will be very excited to have the desk out of the living room. So until then, I guess we'll catch you guys later. Thanks for coming along. In case you're wondering, that's how our giant knot turned out. You can see that.